Welcome back. This is my story about surviving brain surgery. These recaps are getting quicker and quicker. March of 23, got diagnosed with a brain tumor by my gynecologist. April of 23, met with the endocrinologist at Johns Hopkins. Decided to have surgery, no long-term medication. August of 23, I met with the neurosurgeon, talked about the surgery, the recovery, everything like that. Decided to go through with it. By the way, the surgery is through my nose. September of 23, I met with the ENT to do a nasal exam to make sure my nose could handle brain surgery. End of October into November, had the last of my MRIs, CT scans, met with the anesthesia team. November 15th, it was a Wednesday, had surgery, it was 8 hours. And at the last part of the story, I was talking about my ICU experience. So talked about the skull clamp, talked about the graft, not blowing my nose, sneezing, any of that. Okay, so more unexpected things. This wasn't really, having to do with the surgery itself, but it was just something that a lot of people who experience surgery go through, and that is having a catheter. I've heard mixed reviews is not the word, but reactions to catheters. Some people say they don't feel it. Oh, I felt it, and it is incredibly uncomfortable. Again, if you are having this operation coming up, I'm not trying to scare you, but I want to be realistic about what it entails, because when I was doing some research beforehand, I was trying to look for people who had this operation, who maybe were telling their story, and I found some, but it was like very broad. It was, I went in, I had surgery, and then I got better, and it wasn't the detail. And I'm a detailed person. I want to know, what was it like when you woke up? What was it like the next day? What was your pain like? All of the things is what I wanted to know. So that's what I'm providing right now. All of the itty bitty everything. If you have more questions, please ask. When it comes to this surgery, let me preface that. When it comes to this surgery, I am an open book. So the catheter, basically it was taped. Well, if you don't know what a catheter is, I assume a lot of people know, but maybe there are people who don't know. It is a tube that they insert into your urethra, and then it goes into your bladder so that you can urinate while you're in surgery and then while you're recovering. So for me, they were really monitoring my urine output because, let me backtrack a little bit. They took out 1/3 of my pituitary gland. And when they take out part of the gland, it's like your body has to go through a reset for a lot of its systems. So basically, when I came out of surgery, my kidneys weren't functioning as they were supposed to function. And this was expected. This was not like, oh my God, this is something wrong. But it's because your pituitary gland, or mine, was not producing enough cortisol for optimum kidney function. So they were monitoring my urine output because they were monitoring how much liquid I was taking in. Therefore, it should be a certain amount coming out. If it was too much liquid or too little urine coming out, that would be an indication of a bigger issue. And the worst case scenario for that, if I was producing too much urine, is it's called diabetes insipidus, I'm pretty sure. It's not the diabetes that everyone knows that has to do with sugar and glucose, insulin. It's not that. It's a salt form of diabetes. Again, I'm not a medical professional, but basically, if I were to develop that condition, my life would revolve around bathrooms. And my surgeon told me I would basically be using the bathroom every 30 minutes and I'd be on medication to try to help it, but my bladder would just fill up so often that I would have to plan every single aspect of my day to make sure I had access to a bathroom. So that scared me, but so that's what they were monitoring. So my urine output, and then also the salt content, I think, in my urine. Maybe something else, but I don't remember. So I had it in for 24 hours. The line was taped to my right leg, and then, went down to the collection bag at the end of the bed. So I could not move my right leg. I could barely move any part of my body, because when that is in your urethra and in your bladder, any movement you have, you feel. And it's hard to describe what it feels like, but I asked a bunch of times, when are y'all gonna take this out? Like, just, and in the scheme of things, I didn't have it in that long. I know some people have it in for a long time, but 24 hours was enough for me. So the catheter, and then your brain chemistry is altered for a while. So you look like yourself, but you don't feel like yourself. And that's another thing. I'm glad I said that. Prior to surgery, I asked my surgeon, what am I gonna look like when I come out of surgery? And it's not from a vanity perspective. It's more so, if I'm gonna look like I just got beat up and I have black eyes and, face swollen out to here, I wanna be mentally prepared for what I see. And he sat there and said, how you look now is pretty much how you're gonna look coming out of surgery. And I did not understand. I said, you're drilling through bones in my face. How am I gonna look normal? And when he explained it made perfect sense. So when you have the discoloration, if you have a black eye, if you have swelling, that's because you have soft tissue damage. If somebody were to punch me in my face, you'd be able to tell, because all of the soft tissue right here is damaged. But when they do this surgery, they're so far in your skull, in your face, that all of this that you can see isn't really being touched. So you come out looking like yourself. And for some reason, that was such a strange concept to me. But I remember that night around midnight or so, I was off and on with sleep. And then I woke up and I took a selfie. And I remember looking at it, because that was the first time I saw myself. I didn't have any mirrors. I wasn't, I didn't get out of bed at that point. So I took a selfie and I looked at myself and I said, I look normal. I look like me. But now when I look at the picture, I look off. And it's kind of hard to say, to like pinpoint what exactly looks off about you, but you just do, And I did have my whole body was kind of swollen because they gave me a lot of fluids while I was in surgery. So I was kind of puffy, but if you would have seen me after that and you didn't know I had brain surgery, and I would have said, what do you think happened to me here? You would not have guessed brain surgery, but you would be like, I don't know, but you look kind of, what happened to you? You know what I'm saying? It would have been a situation like that. So anyway, your brain chemistry is altered. Pressure changes, that's the other big thing. You feel the pressure change in your head so much, and it hurts, and it's uncomfortable, and it's strange. So for instance, when you first come out of surgery, you're leaning in the bed kind of like this. You're not fully straight up, and you're not laying flat. You're kind of like at an angle. And when they move the bed up or lay it down, it feels like your brain is moving in your head, like not moving fast, but moving slowly, like it's settling in the back. Or if you try to lean on your side, it settles to this side, it settles to that side. And I hated that feeling. I had to lay down flat for a CT scan they did pretty soon after surgery. And when you lay flat, the room starts spinning, your head starts rocking, and you get that settling feeling. And then of course you have all this congestion, but you can't sneeze or cough or do any of those things. So I hated the CT scan, still had the catheter in, so I had to move with that in. Luckily, when I did the MRI at like 1 a.m. that next morning, the catheter was out. But yeah, it was wild. Oh my God. And then you feel like that for weeks after surgery. Like when you get discharged, you go home, you have to sleep upright. Excuse me, laying flat is just, it's not an option. So, okay, where are we in the story? Well, it's almost 10 minutes. So let's stop there and then tune back in for the next part of the story.